Okay. Let's go get us some lunch. Riding 160 miles round trip into the Trans-Pecos region of West Texas just to get some lunch might seem like a long motorcycle trip to some, but it's not the least bit unusual for me and my motorcycle buddies. We do it all the time. But it's about a lot more than just visiting the far-strewn desert diners that have become our favorites over the years. For me, rides like this one are about reaching out to touch the history of West Texas. On this day, Cliff and I rode to McCamey, Texas. It's a town that not only has some good mom-and-pop restaurants, but it's also home to one of the more unusual stories in West Texas lore. Now, before you blurt out that murderer Gary Gilmore was born in McCamey, Texas, and that must be what I'm talking about, no, that's not it. I mean, yeah, Gary Gilmore, the first killer to be executed in the United States after the death penalty was reinstated in the 1970s, was indeed born here. But I've already done a video on that subject and it'll be linked in the description. And since we're talking about well-known people born in McCamey, Texas, I guess I can mention that musician Dan Seals of the legendary 70s pop group England Dan and John Ford Coley falls into this category too. But that's not the story I'm referring to either. I'm talking about a mostly true legend that you won't find on Wikipedia. Something that mostly only the locals will know. It's the unusual tale of Pansy Carpenter. Some of this tale has been confirmed and some of it is folklore, but it's West Texas all the way. Pansy and her husband were circus performers and came to McCamey not long after the town's founding in 1925 to put on a show. McCamey, like most oil boom towns in and around the Trans-Pecos at the time, was mostly lawless and wild. Money flowed freely in a town that did not yet have potable water. According to one legend, Pansy and her husband were offered a bonus to do a particularly dangerous acrobatic trick, and they accepted. What is known for sure is that on that day, Pansy's husband was killed during the performance, and she was seriously injured but survived. Alone and no longer able to perform, Pansy could have left to live with family in Medina County, but saw opportunity all around her in McCamey. She found a piece of land and built her own shotgun house, and later a small garage. Alongside it, she kept her husband's car, which she had kept, but never learned how to drive. Soon, she was building other shotgun shacks on the property, and rented them out to oilfield workers. She was, by all accounts, just the type of eccentric personality who gets drawn to these rough, arid towns. There's a strong allure to these places, but you have to be a little unusual to understand it. I relate to the story of Pansy Carpenter because I have always felt the pull of this allure. I've been all over North America, but I've never truly wanted to live anywhere else but West Texas. I like to think Pansy saw the Llano Estacado and the Trans-Pecos the same way I do. A fascinating place with its own one-of-a-kind ambience and savage beauty. In true eccentric fashion, Pansy didn't trust the local banks, and it is said that she once pulled her little red wagon all the way to the town of San Angelo, over 100 miles away, just to deposit money into their bank. As the story goes, she bought a new toilet for her house while she was there, which she pulled all the way home in the wagon. I don't know if that part of the legend is true, but it certainly sounds like the kind of thing a West Texan would do if necessary. And it illustrates the rugged individualism of those who have always chosen to live here. The late Judge John Hyde once told me, West Texas doesn't require you to have any sort of pedigree to succeed out here, but it does require you to be tough. There's no doubt that Pansy Carpenter and people like her were tough as nails. As an old woman in the early 1970s, Pansy's health started to fail, so she finally moved back to Medina County and lived with remaining family until her passing. She died in 1972 and is buried there. But her legend remains among us here in the harsh land where she made her stand and built her life. So these long rides to places like McCamey are about much more than having lunch or even motorcycling. For me, they are also about reimagining the stories of the legendary people of West Texas. People like oil millionaire Ira Yates, who built an exclusive hotel in the middle of the oil fields out here and brought the biggest musical stars of the time to play there. It's about people who settled here to start businesses and raise families. It's about the ghost towns they left behind when the railroads and the interstates forced them to abandon the lives they built and start again nearer to the commerce. Everywhere I look out here, I see the evidence of someone's story, and I never tire of learning the history of these tenacious, unstoppable people I'm proud to call my own.